requirement for a debate? Perfect. Thanks, team. We will move on to the next item, the improving network productivity, and introduce Simon Buxton, who I think sat in the background of the first meeting, but is the first time before us. I think that's right, isn't it, Simon?
Second time.
Second time. Righto, all yours.
Kia ora. Ko Simon Buxton, toka ingoa. I'm Auckland Transport's Director of Customer and Network Performance. I assume, Chair, you'd like me to do this reasonably concisely? Yeah. So the reason to bring you this improving network productivity update today, separate to the main AT update, was just to let you know about the whole program of work that's going on behind network productivity and give you an update on the work streams in it, because we often go into the details of some of the items within it, and this is just a chance to set the scene, explain all the work streams and how they link together, and then update you on how we're going to bring you the updates in the future reporting. So, as I said, I'm the Director of Customer and Network Performance. It's just worth saying that this is a reasonably new integrated division of Auckland Transport. It covers the areas listed at the bottom there, quite wide-ranging, including road network elements, customer service elements, transport safety, harbour master and parking services. The reason this is important is because it allows us to better utilise our customer insights and data from those customer teams and make sure we're utilising that data, looking at how we respond, listen to people, and improve the network in a focused manner, particularly as we have pressures on our finances, making sure we're investing in the most efficient manner. I'll keep going. So network productivity is all about enhancing the network and how we balance the throughput, the reliability, the access, the safety, and demand management, and how we balance all those things. There's 6 work streams there that I'm briefly going to touch on in a moment, and we do measure at a headline level in our statement of intent some of these things around travel times on the arterial network. We've got the 24-minute target for a 10-kilometre journey, and aim to improve that over time, 23 minutes the following year, for example. Productivity, so that throughput through the network, 28,000 journeys aiming on the arterial network in an AM peak. Freight performance is all about having the percentage of the network that's congestion-free in the interpeak for freight, and obviously death and serious injuries you've referred to earlier. They're just some of the headline measures. In terms of the actual work streams, so operational planning, this is if you want almost the brains and the information behind the portfolio of work. It's about how we utilise things such as shown on screen, the information, the deficiencies in the network, making sure we've got a good operating plan, that we've got linking back to the customer teams that I mentioned. We're utilising those customer insights and data to make sure we're focused on the right investment on the network. Number 2, network optimization. So this is some of the things that we often talk about individually in the council areas. So this is the actual interventions, I suppose, that go in to make the network more efficient or safer, or more access for people, so, including things such as bus boosters. So at the moment we're aiming to do 65 sort of smarter intersections this year, 25 done already. Dynamic streets, which we've talked about before, on track to deliver 3 this year. Special vehicle lanes, as Murray said, we've got 2 going in this year, and also a programme of planning the ones for the following years, 10 for next year, for example. On corridor and intersection improvements, 250 intersections planned for this year, with 43 done already. So this is just giving you an idea of the volume of work that's happening on the network, and in future updates to this meeting we'll be bringing you dashboards that show you how many have been done, where they are, what the sort of progress is, so you can see the details. Disruptions management. So this is all about access to the network and people that need to, for unplanned or planned reasons, intervene with the network, often for construction or repairs or utility works. And our focus here is on using the forward planner that we now have to better consolidate and organise works on the network, so that we're applying a bit more of a dig one approach and coordinating works. And then in terms of things like cones and disruption management for that, making sure that we're managing those contracts and contractors differently going forward so that the cones are there for less time. So the cones do need to be there to keep the workers safe, but can they go in as late as possible and come out as early as possible? And also if there are sites where there's cones with no work happening, making sure we're explaining to customers why. It can often be things such as the concrete's curing, so the cones are there to protect the concrete curing. Room to move is another work stream within here. So this is all about, well, it's got three aims. It's a movement on our network, access and user contributions. So as indicated by that diagram, how do we ensure better movement and dynamic movement on the network? Can parking bays become bus lanes at certain times of day? How do we ensure people have access to schools, education, shops, businesses, and also how do we improve the user contributions from the parking element given our sort of financial pressures. So there's a separate briefing for you going into more detail on Room to Move at the end of October. I think it's on the 30th of October, so you'll get more information on that then. But it does include things like public-facing curbside parking, car share elements, park and ride, parking management plans, compliance initiatives. So there's a lot in this work stream, just looking at movement and access as well. Safety, which we've referred to earlier, obviously it's important as whilst we're still trying to make the network as efficient as we can and give people access to things, that we are focused on safety. And some of the points raised earlier by councillors, ensuring that we're minimising the DSIs. So we have to balance all of these measures. And lastly, time of use charging. This is obviously about demand management on the network. Again, there's an update coming to this forum in December. So this is about, say, all these elements have to go together. So on demand management, we're doing our preparatory work in advance of the government and national legislation work stream, which is happening in parallel. So I will probably just summarise there and say that's a very quick overview for you of when we talk about network productivity. There's all those things going on at once, and we have to balance all of that. There is a high volume of work underneath all those work streams. So the proposal is every 2 months now we'll put some information into the wider Auckland Transport update, like a dashboard showing you progress. And then we can hone in on where we've been putting in initiatives, what's coming next, and just give you some richer information alongside those sort of timely updates on specific deliverables we've got coming before the end of the year. As I said, Room to Move, time of use and safety as updates. So that's the proposal. It's an update on how the work streams link, why it's important, how we have to make trade-offs and balance it, and how we're going to update you in the future. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Simon. So questions, Julie?
Kia ora, if we could just go back to the slide for number 1, that would be useful, thank you. So in terms of the arterial movements, and you mentioned there the figure of 28,000, I think, how do we count a bus?
Yeah, so I think there's two things going on. One is the journey time is obviously covered by the bus in terms of we're targeting that 24-minute journey every 10 kilometres regardless of mode on the arterials. And in terms of the throughput, the bus patronage would be included in the throughput.
Okay.
28,000, yeah.
Cool. So we're not just we're moving one bus and therefore that's one movement?
No, I will clarify and come back to you, but I'm sure we're doing the overall patronage numbers.
Right, that's really important. And my next question was around bicycle and pedestrians, but you've already said that that's for all modes. So that was the main thing I was wanting to understand. Then I have a question around number 3 as well, which is the impact of safety. You've got the accidents, but accidents have a significantly big impact, particularly the more serious accidents, and the faster we go, the bigger the mess. So I wanted to understand a bit more about the work in that space, which again is maybe something to bring back rather than necessarily do an answer on the fly now, and also the impact of mode shift on reducing network disruptions as well, because again we know the more people who are not in a private vehicle, the more that will decrease accidents as well as decreasing the congestion. So I'm particularly interested in coming back to that issue in the future. So I don't know if you have a top of mind response now, but that would be something I'd love to see in the next update. Thank you.
I'll note that and we'll make sure we cover it in the update. But obviously things like more dynamic use of the lanes is a way to encourage mode shifts. So if we're converting, say, parking spaces in the A and peak only to bus lanes, for example, that should encourage people to switch mode. But we'll give you a fuller update in the next one of these items.
Great. Thank you. I guess I'm just looking for that more sort of holistic approach to the various mechanisms that help. Thank you.
Leslie?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for your paper. Well done. My question is around the safety. So we know that the government is demanding a higher level of proof, for want of a better word, before we make any safety interventions like lowering speeds or raising crossings. All the work your team is doing provide that kind of evidence so that we can be confident that when our communities request these kind of things, that we can actually defend the decisions.
Yes, agree with what you're saying, that our team do a lot of evidence work on this. There's a whole programme of interventions, particularly around schools at the moment. I think 54 initiatives this year, this financial year. And as said earlier, we have received, obviously, the government's advice on the speed rule, and we're working through that now. And there's an update coming to our board this calendar month, the AT board, so we have a chance to talk it through with them. And then there's the option to come back to this committee for input as well.
The Mayor?
Thanks for this. This is probably the most productive area that you can spend your time on, really, because these are potentially the best result in small spend, high impact stuff. Dynamic lanes, digitising the signals, all that stuff is cheaper than building roads and bridges. So good stuff. You got a review of AT technology systems is near complete. I don't know who's reviewed that, but as a customer and a funder of this, I want to have a good sniff at that before it gets too far, because this sector in the country has, the government has blown $1 billion on a completely unnecessary ticketing system when we could have just upgraded your one to go across the country. And that's the government who's telling us not to waste money, I might add. I want to make bloody sure that what you're doing there is up to date, because we do have a habit of going to England and other backward countries to find out what's going on rather than going to China and Singapore and whatnot, where the future is. So when can we know? I don't want that AT technology system review to be complete without having had a chance to hear and have an input before it's complete. So can we be involved in that at this stage rather than me being grumpy at the end?
I'm happy to commit that we can bring you an update on it and also include it in the next one of these updates. So yes. Good
Stuff. I'm very interested in digitising our analogue system of connections.
Thank you, Your Worship. Honey.
Thanks for your kōrero. Not seeing Māori outcome in the previous discussion with Auckland Transport. Now, I've got a couple of questions. If any, what discussions have taken place regarding te tiriti and the statutory obligations that need to be upheld? And what can you identify if there's any risks or challenges that might be faced for Māori within the space that we've got?
So it's part of, as Stacey mentioned earlier, we have an overall commitment in our statement of intent around Māori outcomes, and lots of these elements of this programme, for example, room to move and access and some of the network optimisation elements, they're all trying to enable all customers, including Maori, to have the access to the network. So I'll bring you a more detailed update, particularly around this for the next one of these in 2 months' time.
Just another follow-through. I saw in one of the slides you made reference to partners. What type of engagement has taken directly with mana whenua?
I'll have to come back to you on direct engagement with Mana Whenua, so.
Daniel?
Good afternoon. Just been listening to the presentation, and with respect to operational planning, how much of that knowledge could inform a variation to the contracted services under the RPTP ahead of the scheduled update to the RPTP?
I don't have a detailed answer to that. What I will say is operational planning and the data here is all about opportunity and trying to improve things. So again, we'll take your point away, work with our colleagues and come back to you.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I don't know if you were here for Kath Hanley's presentation this morning, but the route that she was talking about is the bus route 321. And just reading the RPTP, it's on page 112, so it's contracted services. And to me, what's required, what she's been seeking is an amendment to an existing route, which I would have thought, given your operational planning remit, if you can design an amendment to that route to incorporate what she's trying to achieve, I kind of would like to understand, well, where do you fit into that, and can that allow for a variation to that contracted service outside of the schedule for the next RPTP?
Yeah, so I guess the department I look after sponsors and specifies and operates the road network, and then obviously Stacey's department sponsors and specifies the public transport network, and we work closely together. So we've got to provide the best network for Stacey to provide the best bus services. So I'll be liaising with Stacey on that point, and I think Stacey did have a word with Kath Hanley in the break. So.
And do you know roughly what the timing was? I mean, I'm assuming that you know where she works in the building, she knows where you work in the building, we can have a conversation and this can all suddenly start to progress, because I was intrigued by the amount of discussions that didn't seem to lead to much this morning, but should we be optimistic?
I think me and Stacey have been talking about this, and we'll make a commitment to deal with it quickly. We talk every day, so yeah.
Thank you. Okay, there's no further questions. So someone like to move? Yes. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Lotu. Those in favour say aye. Aye. And against? Thank you, team. Excellent. Yeah, great, eh? Get through it. The next item is the status update. Someone like to move? Thank you, Desley. Seconded, Lotu. Any discussion? No. Those in favour say aye. Calm down, Morris. Summary of the transport resilience and infrastructure. Do you want to move, Morris, so that it can show that you're here? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you, Morris. And seconded by Desley. Any discussion? Excellent. Those in favour say aye. Against, carried. There are no items of extraordinary business, and so we have finished this meeting slightly later than I said, promised him, Morris, but I'll live with that. We have now a half-hour lunch break, and so we'll be back here at 20 to 3 for the workshop on the RLTP and the funding. Thank you, team. Thank you, everyone.